I'd like to call door the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. The first item of business is the administration of oath to Randall Siniceros and Chris Taylor. Rich got to stand. Oh, that's right.
I state your name,
I, Randall Siniceros,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir.
I state your name,
I, Chris Taylor,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
At this time, if each of our newly sworn-in members would like to make a brief statement, they can, or they can reserve it for later. It's up to you guys. Randall?
Sure, thank you very much. Well, first of all, let me say it's an honor to be here this evening with the distinguished board from Mountain School District, as well as Dr. Moss. His leadership that he provides on a daily basis is something that brings us closer together. He provides a quality education. Just over a year ago, I announced that I was running for school board, and in that time, I received many early endorsements and support from community members. And I just want to say a quick thank you. And you might want to put me on a 3-minute time limit here, but one of the early endorsements came from a good friend, Ontario Councilman Ruben Valencia, Central Labor Council, Iron Workers, Communication Workers of America, Martina Ortega of Ontario, Matthew Hernandez, Arts and Science, Cultural Center, Melissa May, Veterans Partnering with Communities, Danny Marquez, and also our County Supervisor, Joe Baca Jr., 5th District. I intend to serve distinctly and with honor. So thank you very much for allowing me to serve here this evening.
Chris?
I'd just like to say it is a great honor and a privilege to be able to serve among this board, this school district, and our community. It means a great deal to be able to have any kind of support and influence that I can give to be able to help our community to continue to grow stronger and to help our schools in the things that they have been doing for decades, and that is providing strong education for our children and our community. Thank you.
All right, roll call. Mr. Siniceros.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
Dr. Wineham.
Here.
Mike, you want to lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes. Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item is annual organization of the Board of Trustees, election of officers, establishment of the board meeting calendar. Do I have a nomination for president of the board for 2021 school year?
I'd like to make a nomination.
Go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Ronald Newton for president.
Okay.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? What?
Ron Swin for vice president?
But we're not there yet, so. Okay, so I have a motion and a second for me as service president. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. I really do treasure the honor that you guys give me again this year, and I appreciate it. So, you know that. So I really, it's an honor to serve with you guys and to help guide us along. Next item, do I have a motion for clerk of the school board for 2021 year?
I'll nominate Mike Sweeney.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Yes. Okay. Abstain? No, okay. Next item is, I need a nomination for the representative for, the district representative for the 2021 school year.
I'd like to nominate Dr. James Willingham.
Okay.
I'll second.
Is there any other nominations? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Okay. Next, I need a motion for the approval of the establishment of the board calendar for 2021.
Make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. I have a question on this. So the January meeting is not the traditional Tuesday, it's going to be a Monday?
There's no holiday on that Monday.
So the
Holidays.
The holiday itself does not fall that week.
Okay.
The holiday falls the following week. Therefore, whereas we would normally do it
Monday
on
will be
a
a-
Tuesday, because of the way the calendar falls, it will
All
be
right.
the third week out.
Okay. That was my only question. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, 5-0. Next item is public comment. I'll waive the reading because I believe we don't have any.
If we can take a few minutes to pause the meeting, we are having a technical issue with audio upload and feed to the internet.
Of course.
So maybe take 5 minutes?
Sure, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Everyone going to get it fixed in 5 or does he need 6? How about that? There you go. We don't have to do the whole thing over again, do we? Take 2.
Use your coaching voice.
Well, I thought it was.
If you're not talking into this, the audience at home cannot hear you at all.
Okay,
You have to pull it up to your 10.
got it. Yes. I have all the motions seconds if you need them. Okay. All right.
You want us to talk?
You want us to talk?
All right.
You got it all ready? Okay, so a reminder to all the board members, we have to hold up the mics for the rest of the meeting or speak directly into them.
All right, we
No,
can do
you
that.
cannot sing.
Certain people should not. James, you want to try yours?
Hear me? Can anybody hear me? Nope, don't sound like it.
Is yours on? Is Dr. Willingham's mic on?
Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I think it's working. Just
Oh, okay,
point it directly into your mouth there.
okay.
All right,
All right.
then we'll continue. I'll waive the reading of the public comment section because I believe we have no public comment tonight. Is that true? No one sent it in? All right, then we'll move to the action items. Okay, the first item is budget overview for parents. Do I have a motion to approve the budget overview for parents?
I'll make that motion.
1 second.
Okay. Stephen?
Good evening.
No.
Good evening. No?
Keep going.
Is this thing on?
There you go.
All right. America is hearing me. Good evening, America. The budget for overview for parents is the second year we are bringing this document. Usually it's in conjunction with our LCAP. However, because we had to pivot to a slightly different version of to the learning continuity plan as opposed to the LCAP, the state wanted the budget overview for parents to be brought in conjunction with first interim and presented prior to December 15th. So we are one day ahead of schedule. This document kind of compares how we did supplemental concentration dollars, what our budget was. The biggest thing to note is that when it comes to concentration dollars, last year, and this is for reporting on last year and looking at the budget for this year, but as we concluded last year, we fell short of fully expending our supplemental concentration dollars. I mean, it was by a very minimal amount, and that is due to the fact that our shutdown in March essentially ended any extra professional development that was going to go on, and some extra services that would have been provided for students had we finished a complete school year in person. Without the shutdown, we would have met and exceeded our goal for our supplemental concentration based on the required dollar amount. And going into the next year, our concentration dollars are about kind of the same. However, because our unduplicated amount is continuing to drop a little bit as more students move into the Ontario Ranch area, we are noticing that there are fewer students who are qualifying for free and reduced meal, which lowers our unduplicated percentage. And as our unduplicated percentage goes down, so do our supplemental and concentration dollars slowly start to go down as well. But we are for the current year, if there was an LCAP, the services that we are providing or aiming to provide are very similar to the services that we have provided in years past when it comes to things like Zingy Science, making sure that there's lower class sizes, TK through 6, and some of the other programs that we offer to our students as well. Any further questions?
Questions? Questions?
Nope.
Questions? Any questions on this side? No. All right, thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Abstain? Okay, next item is I need a motion for approval of certification of the first interim report for 2021.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
You're back.
I'm back. I'm like a bad penny. I always turn up. We're presenting first interim a little different this year than we have in the years past, kind of for ease of presentation right here, and so we kind of save some of the space. So each of the board members have a printout, kind of a bullet point of the interim reports, and I'm just going to kind of go over that so that the public that is listening can kind of get an idea of what we're seeing at first interim. Let me start off and say that the interim budget is, everything has been this year is, it's been completely crazy, to be honest. Our COLA was projected at 0%. Well, originally when we first created our budget, we were seeing a deficit factor of what would have amounted to about 10%. And at the final budget, the state enacted deferrals, which messed with our cash, but essentially left a 0% COLA so that we didn't see as much of a hit on the dollar side. We just weren't getting as much cash right away. Our budget is still built on the fact that there is a 0% COLA projected for the current year and the next 2 out years. However, revenues, the LAO, the Legislative Administrative Office, has come out and said that, hey, it looks like revenues are much higher than we thought they were going to be for the 2021 school year. And as such, most of our projections across the state are wrong because we know that there's going to be, well, we don't know. There's a very high confidence level that in the January budget revise, the governor will present projections that are much different on the revenue side than initially projected. The good news is more revenues. The bad news is that all the indications seem to be that it will mostly be used for either one-time resources and or to eliminate deferrals, which is good for districts because it eliminates the need for cash, because at the end of this year or into next year, depending on how some things fall, the district may need to borrow cash, which we have reserves and other funds to borrow cash from. So we are, in that respect, lucky because we won't have to pay the interest for a loan on cash to make sure that we meet expenditures like payroll. It seems that in January, the governor will announce the elimination of the deferrals, which would solve our cash problem, but going forward doesn't really add any new revenue to the budget. So we're really still looking at best, a small COLA of around I think their current estimates is less than 1.5%. I want to say 1.14%, but maybe it's 1.41. I'm pretty sure those are the two numbers. I could be inverting those. But so going forward into the out years, we are seeing hopefully the elimination of deferrals to help our cash, but we aren't seeing a lot of significant new revenues, and the revenues we do see may kind of come back to the days of Governor Brown as one-time sources. With that, I'm going to just go ahead and go forward with how we did, at least this year, construct the budget. Looking forward and understanding that this is changing, and what we bring in second interim in March, in our March board meeting, probably will look significantly different than the budget does look currently. Hopefully, at least from a cash perspective. We are still deficit spending in all 3 out years. This is primarily due to maintaining class sizes from our last negotiated agreement. So we are, by contract, we have our class sizes lower than they have been in the past. However, it is eating reserves, and so it's something that will have to be, and this isn't, something that we'll have to address at some point, looking at needing to cut by the third year at one point about $1 million. This number could change as we see changes in budget. So right now I'm not super concerned, but it is concerning that we still, even with the growth of a new school, might need to look at cutting some expenditures. I'm hoping that by the time the January budget revise or the January governor's budget comes out, it won't be as much of an issue, but we're still, in the out years, there is some concern of deficit spending. Next year, because of planning the 0% COLA, we are looking at having to borrow about 1.3 million from Fund 14, which is deferred maintenance, to make sure that we meet our reserves. Fund 14 has money set aside for deferred maintenance, which would be in case a roof, any large maintenance projects, a roof needed to be replaced. We had to replace a portable because it got washed away. Anything that would be not necessarily routine, but would still be maintenance on at the district level. We kind of covered the revenues, but to get down to the numbers, it is expected that we're seeing about $13.7 billion additional dollars to education from what was originally projected for the 2021 year. So hopefully that will at least eliminate the deferrals and hopefully give us a little bit of some one-time dollars as well that we might be able to use to offset some of our current costs. The district has applied for the growth funding approval, which is still pending. So in the 2021 school year, the state created a hold harmless policy so that any district that lost ADA wasn't going to be harmed. However, when they created this policy, it kind of left out the fact that there's a few of us that are actually growing. They since changed some legislation, and there is some ability to recover some dollars for growth. It's not going to be 100% because it's based off of budget and not actual numbers from the way the legislation was written, but a little bit of growth dollars is better than no growth dollars. In the current year, ADA growth has exceeded our original budget projections by about 20, and we had thought our ADA would go up about 15 to 20 from where we were last year. So we're up about a whole, student ADA-wise, about a whole class size from where we actually budgeted. So ADA will not be reported in the current year. There'll be some collections, but overall, when we report P2, it's not going to be collected. And this is, I kind of wish I had a board so I could draw it out, but this is where it's going to get confusing. Because we aren't collecting ADA for the 2021 school year, next year's ADA will be funded on the grader of current year, which would be 21-22, or prior year, which we aren't collecting ADA for 2021, so prior year that they have on record is going to be 19-20, which means that any district next year that was seeing growth or not seeing growth, they're going to reap a benefit. We will be funded at our growth and we would get that benefit. But the biggest problem is going to be in that next year for school districts, and this probably won't be our issue because we plan to open the school in 2023 and we are continuing to see that growth. But in 2022-23 fiscal year is where everything kind of catches up to school districts, because now you're essentially missing 2 years and you're taking a 2-year hit on your P2 because it's going to jump from your 19-20 P2 all the way to your 21-22 P2. So you're missing 2 years of the grader of prior year or current year. Ideally, that will not harm us, but the one thing that does happen in 22-23 is that currently the STRS and PERS buy down that the state provided some relief for, those will expire, and STRS PERS rates will go back up to the rates that were originally essentially projected based on investment formulas, which will affect the district, whatever happens with the district growth-wise or not, is that we will see a significant increase into our STRS PERS cost in the 22-23 school year. Questions about the budget?
Mr. Sweeney?
Stephen, I'm a little confused. So will we or will we not see increased funding for our increased ADA?
In the current year?
Yes.
If we get approved, we will see some increased funding, but not as if it was a true current year or prior year formula. It's going to be based off a percentage. The way the law reads is it's based off of the state average attendance rate by your projected enrollment and or projected ADA. But because our budgeted and projected ADA are coming in lower than what it actually was, it's higher than we were in 1920 projected, but our projections, because we're still seeing, and part of that is because students aren't leaving to go to LA because their parents are working from home now. But we won't capture the full growth this year, only basically what we budgeted based on a formula.
Okay. So the increase in funding is not commensurate to the actual students that are in the chairs?
That is correct.
Okay.
It could change in January with the additional dollars that are coming in, but I haven't heard any rumors of that happening. But it could be a one-time cost that they may look at. But right now, the cure is based off of the how a district built their budget.
And one more thing, do you know how much higher the projected revenues coming in will be next year?
Yeah, we're looking at about, right now, the current estimate is 13.7 billion to school districts.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
If I may, quick question. Right now, in a nutshell, what you're saying is things are still very fluid. We have the January, there's a May revise, and there's possibly a federal stimulus that could trickle down to the states that could impact public education. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, there's not much to share outside of the fact that it sounds like the federal government is still working on a federal stimulus that would help education. There hasn't been much rumors on how that would be allocated. Some of the federal dollars that were sent down to states were based on some Title I numbers, which if they do that again would actually hurt the district because we don't have a Title I program currently. Other programs are based on health work was based on enrollment and ADA and supplemental concentration. So it really depends on once the legislators finally come to a compromise on what's happening, how it gets passed down to the states. So there could be additional dollars that come through, but there hasn't been a lot of talk yet on what those dollars would look like from a federal perspective and how they would actually reach local education agencies.
Thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Stephen.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Next item is the educational specification for Parkview Elementary School. I need a motion to approve the educational specifications for Parkview.
I'll make that motion.
Are you handling this, Dr. Moss?
Yes.
Okay.
So the information you have before you are the educational specifics, which is a collaboration between educational services, facilities, maintenance and operations, and our architect. The focus is to create a comprehensive and cohesive plan to address Parkview School, but could potentially also be utilized for future elementary schools. The foci, sustainability, safety, 21st century learning, flexibility, purpose, and meaning of structures. So what you find in the document is general information that the CDE does use as the base component for our designs. And the designs, as they go through the various components, for example, within sustainability is looking at how do our overall hardscapes and softscapes work within an environmental plan specific within the needs and the desires of Sacramento as it relates to new school building. Safety, which we've talked about extensively with Parkview School, are the various safety components that are in place, additional ways in which we can create safety both outside as well as inside the school building. 21st century learning opportunities, which is focused on making sure that the spaces we have within the school are flexible and able to be used for a variety of purposes. So for example, in 2020, what we might think of as a specific classroom or specific classroom design needs to be able to be flexible so that in the year 2030, it can be utilized in a variety of different ways as we progress and change through the educational years. Purpose and meaning goes back to the specific components of the program and of the school. So for example, you'll see discussions about kindergarten rooms, special education spaces, as well as a variety of other spaces that go back to specific purpose and meaning, however, still focused on flexibility as necessary so that we can change the specific meanings and uses of different rooms. I give as an example to the board members who were present for our tour at Tahlequah Elementary School down in Menifee. And when we went down there, one of the rooms that they were utilizing had one-way glass. It was a mirrored glass system. So it enabled student teachers, intern teachers, and also master teachers to be able to provide demonstration lessons in a demonstration classroom. That was not specifically put into the Parkview design because we felt there was other ways we could utilize space. And so there's different ways you can then take classrooms, take spaces within a school, and make sure that you make that design meaningful, but also that flexibility. The sustainability automatically comes because of what California Department of Education, as well as other agencies up in Sacramento, require for new schools. So for example, if you look at the hardscaping, if you remember visiting Tahlequah School, it had a very different, a whole lot less turf than what might be used to seeing in schools. California schools, the modern schools that are built, don't have a lot of turf. Instead, you have a lot of plants that require minimal water, but at the same time don't necessarily attract bees. There's a whole variety of different requirements that you might see with those. We'd also talked about solar as well as solar projects, how that works within various construction, and then within Parkview School. Again, that comes back to the sustainability as well as the energy efficiency. And with this particular building, the energy efficiency quotient that we had discussed is one of the highest that you can have in the industry at this time, which is one of the reasons why this design was chosen.
Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Doug, that observation room that school had, the observation room for the, there was, you could see on, one side of the window or something of that nature? At the school, they had they called it observation room. I remember somebody.
Correct.
Okay. Would that go be included, or we just go get a?
We will not have the observation room. Though, for
Okay.
example, if we decided we wanted to, the way that those specific rooms in that particular area are developed, we could put those in.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was something that was an example of how you can create flexibility in design. That particular school wanted to have that option, but other varieties of that same school in the same district don't have that option.
Right.
So we might find that there's something that we specifically do want to utilize after construction. So we might want to change the configuration of a TK room or the configuration of a kindergarten room. The spacing is what is necessary from California Department of Education, but we have the ability to make additional modifications, not within the specific walls themselves, but of the function and purpose of a room. Turning a classroom, for example, into a specific type of learning laboratory or something along those lines.
Also, I know some of those classrooms, the restrooms were inside the classroom.
Correct.
That's still
So,
that's still
yes.
the plan?
So what
Okay.
you have within transitional kindergarten as well as kindergarten classrooms by California Department of Education, school design, you have restrooms for those grades actually inside of the learning environment. So you don't have 4- and 5-year-olds wandering around to go ahead and find restrooms. You need to have the spaces there. Though we don't have moderate to severe classrooms, for example, within the special education continuum, should we have those, they also have specific restrooms as well as sink facilities and other types of changing rooms, et cetera. We don't have those classes. Those are currently held by San Bernardino County, but we do have the restrooms for TK and kindergarten within the learning environment.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Moss. I'll tell Jeremy you did a good job.
Thank you.
I have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Next item is call for nominations for CSBA Delegate Assembly. Is there anyone I'd be glad to nominate anybody that is interested in running for the CSBA Delegate Assembly. Okay.
No.
All right, I'd like to nominate Randall Siniceros, right? It may take me a little while to get that down. Okay, I'd like to nominate him. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be nominated?
Nope.
No? Again, let's have a motion, and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Again, you have to fill out the paperwork, get it in by Thursday, January 7th, and then it goes in front of all the districts in
That is correct. So
in
any
our area.
information
in our particular CSBA area.
within Region 16, so the
Yes.
information then goes out to them. We can provide specific information. There is a link that we'll send to you, but any additional information or assistance you
Right.
need, we'll be able to provide through our office.
So when you write it out, you put all your wonderful things in there, and then everybody else reads them, because we read other people's,
Correct.
so.
Yeah.
All right.
That's correct.
All right, next item is information items, enrollment report. Dr. Moss?
Our current enrollment, Creekview is at 615, Mountain View is at 534, Ranch View is at 813, Grace Oakley at 614, with a total of 2,620 students. We're currently standing 50 students over projections. Total number of interdistrict requests for the 21-22 school year are currently down by 90% over this time last year. I do believe that does have to do with the fact that many students are, or the vast majority of students in the state of California are learning virtually and are staying in districts where they had their learning programs originally designed. The few that we have received for the 21-22 school year are due to enrollment requests from Corona Norco Unified, which has asked for those requests to be in previous to, I believe it's the 20th of December.
Okay. Any questions on enrollment? Okay, next item, staff student attendance.
So for our staff student attendance, this is for November 1st through November 30th. Certificated rates are currently above 95%. Classified rates, some rates have dipped below 90% due to long-term leave. We also have COVID-related issues as well as other health issues. This has been largely what we are expecting, however, not to the level that we are expecting. So we did anticipate a dip in our classified attendance due to COVID and cold and flu and anything else that's floating out there. We have definitely seen that within our classified ranks. However, the level is not to what many other districts are experiencing. We are currently staffed at school sites at 22% of our normal capacity. Next week, this will fall to 5% of normal capacity. The week after that, it will fall to 1% of normal capacity. We'll then slowly begin rebuilding back up until we have our staff returning to school campuses as their primary sites, unless they do apply for certificate if they apply to stay working or teaching from home.
And this is in line with the rest of the districts in West End?
Yes, except our levels, our level of, or technically we've had fewer people out. We've also had far fewer cases for COVID and also COVID-related leaves than our neighboring districts.
So do we know when students miss if they're impacted by COVID or have it or near somebody who has it? Do we know that, or is that just?
Some of it is, if parents do self-report specifically that their student is out with COVID. However, from teacher report, what we are finding is that the vast majority of students who have tested positive for COVID and who have mild symptoms are still reporting for their classes. They then announce on their Zoom session with their teachers that they have COVID, that they might not be feeling well. The teacher works with them so they know that they can, if they need to log off, they can log off. But it's, so far, it's been far less than what we expected.
Okay. Dr. Willingham? you have a question?
Dr. Moss, I know when we met, I think about 2 or 3 months ago, you mentioned that someone is reaching out to those students that are not logging on, or basically
That's correct.
are we still reaching out to those students?
Oh, yes, and we will continue. So the way that works is we have our Dean of Students, that's Kelly Reyes. She is based out of Grace Oakley. However, she facilitates the process on all of our campuses. There's outreach specifically with Kelly Reyes, as well as the principal of the school sites, as well as Mike Green, who's counselor at Grace Oakley, however, is also assisting our principals on the elementary sites doing specific outreach. So if we have students who are not logging in, students who are not showing up, we are doing the specific follow-ups on those and also monitoring and tracking that so that we have specific information that includes home visits that we've also been making.
Dr. Moss, how are we coming with the technology piece? Are we having ironed that out, or are we still struggling, or?
Technology has worked, there's a couple different tiers of technology, so I'll go ahead and address basically all three. We have the overall infrastructure within our school district, which luckily we did the significant upgrades a couple of years ago, which has enabled us to be able to have, for lack of a better term, if you can imagine a big, huge freeway with not a whole lot of traffic on it, that's what we have within our district. We have a lot of ability to move information across our district and out, which is fantastic. So that's specifically relating to bandwidth and how we have that on our various campuses. So our teachers, when they're teaching from school sites, are not experiencing, or generally will not be experiencing bandwidth issues. Now, our students who are at home are on a variety of different types of systems. Some of them might be accessing their Wi-Fi through cable networks. Some of them might be doing it through satellites. Some of them might be utilizing hotspots. And for those, you're going to have differing levels of access to that bandwidth. And so for some of our students, a lot of them are accessing a tower that might have a lot of people pulling off of it, which means it's going to be slower, there'll be more hiccups. The third component of it is relates to the specific technology that both our students as well as our teachers are using. So our students have Chromebooks. The Chromebooks are maintained. If there is an issue with the Chromebooks, they're brought in, they are serviced, the student is issued another Chromebook to take home. We have a full sterilization process in place for that as well. Teacher technology has been on an upgrade since the beginning of the school year, with our teachers receiving new laptops, new technology, as well as iPads, projector components necessary to make all of this work. So for example, right now we are working with Grace Yoakley's staff to replace out their old technology and issue them new technology. And again, this is not, part of it is COVID related, but this is also necessary replacements and upgrades in technology necessary. So when our students come back, which will hopefully be soon, when our students do come back and we return to something that looks a little more like normal, that technology will already be in place and the teachers will already be utilizing that technology.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Dr. Moss.
You're welcome.
Next item is financial statements. Stephen?
This is the financial statement for activity for November. There's really nothing much to note. You can just kind of see our expenditures in and out. Hasn't been any major revisions that weren't covered in first interim, but if there are any questions about our November activity, I can answer those.
Okay. Any questions on the financial report?
No.
Thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Next item is school plan for student achievement, SPSA, first reading. Ms. Sullivan?
Okay, good evening. As you mentioned, these are our school plan for student achievement. This is a first reading. They will be brought back next month for approval. Our principals work very diligently with their school site councils to design plans that align with district goals. So they have been working with them on that. There are some minor changes that you will see in these plans compared to prior year. For example, we weren't able to have CASP testing, so we don't have that data to rely on. Fortunately, we've been running iReady, so we have that data that we're using, so you'll see some of the metrics that have changed in that. We have also changed some of our remediation programs instead of after-school programs, as you can see. We have office hours that teachers are providing, and then we have some tutoring through paraeducators for specific groups. So again, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer those, and otherwise they'll be coming back next month for approval.
Any questions? Any questions? Yes, Mr. Sweeney?
Not a question, but did you put this report together?
The principals do. They work with their school sites to create their plan. We just support the principals in that process.
It's an outstanding report, so please
I will pass that on to them.
pass that on to
Thank
them.
you.
Very well done. And I do like to see the heavy emphasis on mathematics. I think iReady, being a little more prevalent, is going to reap some huge benefits.
Yeah, and we're really fortunate that we already had this in place. It was something that we could depend on when CASP and everything else was taken away from us. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
And Karen, I know that students are currently, most of them have finished up their iReady. Is there any early results in terms of loss from time away and all that? Is there any report?
Mr. Elder has been monitoring that and has some preliminary data. There's areas that we were expecting to see more loss in some areas than others, but so far the data is looking relatively good for the situation that we're in. Our professional learning communities that our teachers are doing focuses on learning loss and targeting those students, and our teachers are monitoring students. We're looking at students who dropped during this time so that we can get them back to where they were regardless of their performance level.
And will we have a report on how those numbers are going?
Yeah, I can certainly share that with you once it's all finalized. The testing window ends Friday.
Any
Karen,
other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
When you say those students that would drop, meaning they just,
These are students that, because school ended abruptly in March and students were sent home, and that was kind of a different time frame than what the kind of instruction that we're doing now. Some students kind of disconnected from us, and we didn't see them until school started this year. So we would anticipate students having some degree of loss, and that could be at any level. You could have a very academically high student who has dropped their performance. And so our focus is on getting students back to where they were and then continuing to grow that.
So for those students that dropped, and they came back at the beginning of the school year, are we handling them any different than any other? How is that?
Our teachers have gone through, and Mr. Elder has provided quite a bit of rich data for them. And so during their professional learning time, community time, they have been looking at data, targeting students, and monitoring the progress of those students. And then the principals are also monitoring. Mr. Elder's able to run reports and monitor those students as well. So we're really trying to address that learning loss and then make sure that kids are not slipping any further back than what has to. Obviously, this isn't the model we prefer. If it was, this is what we would have been doing for years. We're definitely trying to make the best of the situation, but we want to make sure that students are receiving the strongest program that we can provide in this situation.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney?
Karen, you brought up remediation a little bit ago. Obviously, the learning environment for kids is much more difficult. The attention that I'm certain a number of students are putting in and the effort that they're putting in is a little bit less than it normally is. So intervention and remediation-wise, how much have we increased our ability to help these kids out?
So if you want to look at intervention, we run a couple different programs for intervention, but at the elementary level, it's specific students, and we only have so many spaces based on how much staff we can offer. At the middle school level, we were offering an after-school homework club that was a drop-in. So anybody who needed help could drop in. So we could target more students in that way. The positive of what we're doing right now is every teacher in the district, regardless of what they teach, even music teachers, they all have office hours for 30 minutes every day. So a student can drop into any of those teachers. And I'll give a great example. Mrs. Greenwood's doing 6th grade band with our 6th graders that are on the elementary campus. So if those students learned something from her, but they weren't sure and they wanted to check back, they know from 2 to 2:30 she's available, even though she's not their regular teacher. So they can drop in, chat with her, get the information that they need, answer questions if they're confused on an assignment, if they need extra help. All of our teachers in the district are available from 2 to 2:30 for that extra support. And I bet there's quite a few more that stay on even longer if students need it. But so every student has access to all the teachers in the district to get the support that they need during that time and get extra help. And then we have some of our additional programs like English learners, some of our students with disabilities. We have our paraeducators that are also available for an hour in the afternoon on those tutorials. And students can drop in, that are in those programs, can drop in and get support as well during that time.
Well, I think it's great that we have students who know they're falling behind or their parents know they're in the rears a little bit, have the ability to drop in on a teacher during those 30-minute periods. My concern is for those students who are not reaching out. Do we have some kind of a mechanism that we're identifying those kids and we're reaching out to them?
So one of the things that I didn't mention just a moment ago is that we still have Discovery Center that's also happening, and that's not during the students' instructional time. It's in the afternoon when they would be doing independent work. So our Discovery students are able to get extra support from our TOSAs, our teachers on special assignment. They were just reporting to me, in fact, that they'll have students that log in to their Zoom, and they'll stay for all 3 grade levels. Like it might be a 3rd grader who will jump in at 1st grade, and they'll stay for 2nd grade, and then they'll stay for 3rd grade because they're enjoying it. And the teachers they allow the students to stay in if they're there. If they need the support and they want to be there, they let them be there. So we have that going on. As far as outreach, it goes back kind of to what the question earlier, where Mrs. Van Dyke is working with like Mr. Green and the principals who are reaching out and trying to do that. Our teachers themselves do a wonderful job of reaching out to the students that they serve. They know their students better than anyone else, and they have that relationship. Many times parents are sitting next to their students, so there's also that connection as well. But yeah, we're reaching out in all ways we can. We want all students connected to school. We want our students to get the best education they can in this situation.
Well, thank you for that. And obviously my concern comes from, are these kids going to be prepared to move on to the next grade, or are we just going to push them through?
Yeah, and obviously that's our goal. We want students to get where they need to go. It is challenging when you have students who log in. And, you know, we've had teachers reporting that there are students who log in and they have their camera off the entire time. And it's very hard to read someone when you can't see them, you know, to see and they're not really interacting and responding. I do think that there is value, obviously we want students participating. We want them engaged. But I do know that there are some students who just like to sit and not be in the limelight and soak everything up. And so they may not be really actively participating, but they're hearing everything and they're watching what's happening and they're engaging that way. But yeah, the concern is the students who aren't logging in and trying to get them, you know, on at least logging in and participating.
Well, thank you very much. I hope you don't feel like I'm grilling you.
Not at all.
Just concerns that I've had as this pandemic has
Absolutely.
grown. So thank you very much for
Yeah.
what you're doing.
No problem, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
If I may, Karen, for me as a parent of an 8th grader, 13-year-old, trying to parent during these times is a little bit tough. You know, we've gone from helicopter parents to a peekaboo parent who wants to make sure that our student is engaged and involved. Are you able to identify which particular grades or time of day where students are not logged in and engaged during the regular class instruction?
Yeah, our teachers are taking attendance, and that would be period attendance at the middle school level as well. We also have engagement reports through iReady, so we know who's logging in and how much time they're spending on it, and their actual usage and so forth as well. So all of that's being tracked. We are obviously trying to pick our battles, and I would want a student logging in and being there with their teacher. I mean, that would be my top priority, is to try and get them to do that. And then we would, after we get that going, then we would focus on iReady and things like that. The benefit to iReady are these diagnostic tests. It is challenging to give at home because we do have parents who are very well-meaning that will tell, you know, the students are taking a test, and the parent will say, well, you know the answer to that, or, you know, try to assist them. And we try to, you know, we do try to educate the parents that it's very important for the students to take the test on their own, because the work that's assigned to them is based off how the student does. We don't give them a grade. This does not go on their report card. This is so that we know what level of work the student needs. And if they're testing higher, then they're going to be given higher work that's going to be frustrating to them. So it is very important that we get an honest, genuine assessment, but it is very challenging, and the people at iReady will even tell you that it is, you know, it's not perfect, but it does give us some information. It gives us enough information. I think the analogy that Mr. Elder used in his email that went out to staff was, it's kind of like a gas gauge. You know, it works some, and we get an idea of where we are, is better than no gas gauge. So at least it does give us an indication of where we are, where students are. Now that we have that second round of data, we will be doing iReady training with our teachers, a second round, to teach them how, well, they did it last year, but to reinforce how to look at round one, round two, how to compare that data, and then the direction they need to head in.
Thank you. We know these are very challenging times, and educators today have to be magicians to be able to make that constant connection. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Karen. Great job as always. Next item is report on certificate assignments. Dr. Moss?
Yes, in the past, we've had a number of employees, certificate employees, who were working on different elements of their credentials, and I think at our peak, we had 8, then we went down to 6, eventually down to 3. We currently have all certificate employees in Mountain View School District are assigned within their credentialed authorizations, and that is 100% for all staff on all campuses.
All right, that was a great effort by everybody to get there.
Well done.
Good job. The next 6 items, we'll just do it as one. First range for the board policy updates. Anything that stands out?
So what you're going to find that's slightly different this time around, CSBA has modified and altered the way that they send us the information, and also slightly the way it looks to you. On my end, within the red pen, so that's the red notation that you'll see, you're going to now find the department or departments that are responsible for a specific board policy is now written above the word CSBA sample. This helps the trustees to be able to identify the specific areas that that particular policy refers to. This particular round included ongoing updates on sexual harassment, both in the workplace as well as in the classroom. There have also been some minor changes related to purchase as well as sale of district capital assets.
Any questions? No? Okay. The next items would normally be the time that the principals would talk about each activity at their school. Is there a particular that we need to highlight? Or my suggestion would be to obviously read the bulletins and
Yeah, I would,
contact them directly.
for trustees to look at the specific bulletins. Again, normally this time of year, my office provides you a listing of all the various activities that are happening. We don't have those right now. So I would look at the bulletin to go ahead and provide more specifics.
Look at the bulletins. Also, unfortunately, we don't have our Christmas party or any of that stuff. So if you have something in particular, feel free to contact the school or the administration. Next item is Board Superintendent Staff Communications. Dr. Willingham.
None to report?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry.
Okay,
None to report.
okay. Mr. Sweeney.
First, I'd like to thank the board for reappointing me to the position of clerk. I'm entering my 25th year, and I don't take this position lightly. It's an honor to serve this community and the school district and the kids within. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Taylor for being kind of elected back onto the board. And Mr. Seniceros, welcome. I congratulate you as well. And I look forward to working with you and drawing from your vast experience from working with the Colton board. So welcome. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Taylor.
I'd just like to take the moment to be able to just say thank you to all the teachers and really all the administration, Doug and your whole team. And a special, as I talk about those teachers and them utilizing the iReady, I know that it's a different approach, but as a parent, I love to be able to see where my kids are, and it brings, it helps me to know where they are and to see where they need to grow, and I love the fact that I can trust that the teachers know exactly where they need that growth as well. And so, Karen, to you, your whole team, just thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Seniceros.
As a parent of an 8th grader, I have to say I appreciate the updates that we get by email. I'm always on top of my son, making sure that he's always engaged and participating on a daily basis. You know, with COVID today, unlike it's been with years in the previous with my other children, for somebody who's a teenager, we almost had no engagement. But today, we're a close family, even more so because of COVID. These are challenging times, like I've said before. And I think now with the release of the COVID vaccine, our darkest days are starting to change. We're very optimistic. By summertime, it'll be entirely different than what we experienced last summer. I have to say thank you to the Board of Education for making me feel welcome here at Mountain View School District. Also to Dr. Moss, your experience, your expertise, your knowledge, I appreciate very much. You make it very comfortable to come here and serve the community. So thank you very much. To the families that are out there, I want to say Merry Christmas. To military families as well, my son is a lieutenant currently in the Pacific Ocean with the USS Bunker Hill. We're going to miss him again for the second consecutive Christmas. I just want to say safe travels. We miss you. Thank you.
I just want to also welcome both of you on the board. I know the contribution will continue to be high, as it has been through the 29 years that I've been on.
You're old. You're old.
Yeah, you're older, so, you know. So there you go.
But no one knew.
Well, they do now. But I also want to thank everybody for entrusting me with the gavel for another year. I appreciate that. I do my best to try be fair to everyone and let everyone have a voice. So that's my goal, is to allow everyone to speak and speak fully. Other than that, I don't have anything. Dr. Moss?
Yeah, these, again, we've heard so many times about being unprecedented times, and having to send home so many of our staff to be able to work from home was not something I was looking forward to doing. However, the incredible work that our staff did to make that possible, and how they did it, and it was done orderly, it was done well. I've had the unique opportunity to, instead of going into their classrooms, being able to come into their room virtually on Zoom, to be able to talk with their students, to be able to talk with them, to be able to interact. And I can't speak for other districts in any place else, but within Mountain View School District, I know the type of teachers that we have and the amazing commitment our teachers have to the educational process. But our families have done such an incredible job. And even with this latest pivot and change, the work that they have done, our students continue to do a fantastic job. Their level of questions, their level of inquiry, their level of interest, even when it's crazy. And I say that from one of the classes where all I could see was this little tiny bit of this girl's head, and I could see her name. So I mentioned her name, and then she got up a little bit closer, and then she backed away. And I wanted to know, well, what's happening today? I can't see you. I was hoping to be able to see you. And she said she just didn't really feel like it that day. She wanted to be in class. She wanted to be learning everything. She just didn't want to be seen that day. And I think that says a lot for all of us right now. As we go through our day-to-day, all the various things that we do, and I'm going to say that for our technology team that we have present, including our facilities and maintenance people, everyone working our school offices, our nutritional services people, they come up, they show up every single day to assist in making this possible. And there are days when all of us want to just show about this much of our forehead on screen and any place else that we might be. This is a very different holiday season for everybody. It's the first time in history that I know of that we have not been able to have our holiday tea where we bring everybody together. And that's incredibly difficult. We have many, many families that are suffering during this time, whether from separation or from job loss or from other economic hardships. We're doing everything we can as a district to assist with food security, to make sure that there's food available for our students. But the vaccine's there. That's going to be a game changer. We've known that all along. We've been hearing that from our government as well. And these are incredibly dark days. It just so happens to coincide with the darkest part of the year, with the first day of winter coming soon, and the time that we want to be the most close with our family, friends, loved ones, and colleagues, and we can't be. So we've got this. We're going to remember this forever. It's challenging, but as a district we have this. As a community, as South Ontario, we have this. Bigger, broader, San Bernardino County, all the way across the state, we absolutely have this. We just need to stick together. We need to support each other and continue to practice as much kindness and compassion as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan? Karen? Stephen? Edwin? I caught him by surprise. All right. Next item is consent agenda. Unless a trustee, the superintendent, or the public has a question concerning a particular item, an asset be withdrawn from the consent agenda. Items that are considered routine in nature are approved at one time by the governing board. Is there any item anybody wishes to have withdrawn for consideration? Then do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
A second?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? The next regular board meeting will be on 7 p.m. on Monday, January 11th. I wish everyone here and watching a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, and stay safe. Okay? We'll take a 5-minute recess before closed session.